Yes.
Wait, change the batteries.
You go.
Oh, no, no. What you saying?
George, it may be time for a new one.
Let's do that. Jimmy two, handprint all over.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion and return to public session.
It's been moved and second that we go back to public session. All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. The poses are the same. We're back into regular session, special session. No actions were taken or no decisions were made while we were in executive sessions. Is there anything that needed to be brought before?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve two certified recommendations that were presented to us by Dr. McCord.
It has been moved and second that we accept the two elections requested by Dr. McCord. All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Opposed are the same, they have been accepted. We'll move to board items for discussion. Superintendent's report.
Thank you. Thank you. I want to begin by saying thank you a third time, but this time I want to publicly acknowledge all those that have participated in helping bring this plan together. Each of our schools have communicated with SIC members, teachers, staff, community members, parents, and in many cases, students. Our efforts tonight that will be presented are a culmination of plans that have been submitted. Now, I also want to preface by saying that there is no real plan that's going to be presented that will satisfy and meet the needs of everyone 100%. Knowing this, a decision still has to be made. And so with what I consider to be at great lengths, thought, and preparation, we have put together what I believe will allow us an opportunity to do something unique, and that is offer a type of personalized learning for students based on conversations with teachers, counselors, and school administrators. Before I go into the plan in full detail, I would like to ask if we could agree upon a return date. And I ask this question because you were presented with a few options. The last and most recent option had us returning after Labor Day on September 8th. Having conversations and discussions with staff and in looking at the calendar, we saw the need to bring before you what was sent to you recently, and that is a new calendar with with class beginning for students on September 2nd, teachers returning on August 17th. Doing this allows us to include the Monday and Tuesday for Thanksgiving that week, because the post-Labor Day schedule cut out Monday and Tuesday for the Thanksgiving week, and there's a great length of days between Labor Day and the first break. And it also allows us to include Memorial Day, which is very near and dear for many of our families here in Marlborough County that have family members that have served proudly in our armed forces. And so that small variation allows us, again, an opportunity to meet the needs of the staff and the community. And I'd like for you to consider this as our new proposed start date. That gives us the 20 days that's needed to be approved by the state. It says we have notified our constituents of a start date before starting school within 20 days. Now, I'll entertain any questions you have on this first.
I'm looking at this calendar, so that means just 3 days, they're coming back 3 days early, 3 school days early. Because the 8th is on a Tuesday
Correct. The eighth is on a Tuesday, and instead we're going to come back on the second. We also, I'm sorry,
Okay, the staff is coming back the second.
staff is returning on the 17th. I'm gonna talk about that in a moment. The staff returns on the 17th. As you know, the state has 5 days that they're asking all students have an opportunity to be in school prior to the first day of school. This allows us, if the staff returns on the 17th, we have 5 days that we can work with staff, professional development, set up classrooms, define how the system will look in each of our schools, and then we roll over into the 5 leap days. We return back for two more days with staff on the 31st and the 1st, and then students return on the 2nd. And so I think this gives us the best of both worlds. We have an opportunity to meet with staff, then meet with students, have staff come back again for 2 more days, and then we start with students.
When we originally started our calendar planning, we were trying to finish up our semester before Christmas so we could get our end of second 9 weeks. We're not gonna be able to do that with this calendar. I noticed that, but we do have 3 weeks after the Christmas break to get our students reestablished as far as learning procedures. As I'm reading this correct?
Correct. We would not be able to complete first semester by the end of December.
Yeah, there's no way to do that, but we will have 3 weeks here, it looks like, to get everybody, a little bit back into
To
the
get
movement.
back into the swing of school. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
We still, however, might have a chance to complete EOC tests for high schools, but again, we'll see where we are, how the science takes us, what the data says. Prayerfully, we'll be heading into some type of vaccination sometime in early fall.
One more quick question. Our bad weather days, they're built in here still, correct?
Well, because we are now, I think, for lack of better terminology, all days are bad weather days. We're hosting school outside of the brick and mortar. And so we're prepared to deliver instruction even during inclement weather.
I understand what you're saying, but I do know that internet access is not the best in Marlboro County. And if we have a snowstorm or bad weather, internet's not going to work then either. So that's why I'm asking, so do we have days built in when the internet is down as well as school buses cannot move?
Yes, but that aside, the board can request up to 3 days to be, you can take 3 days off the schedule, and then we move into those 3 emergency days. And then, of course, after that, we have to ask for permission by the state. But all that said, the answer to your question in short is yes.
How will this mesh with the dual credit classes
I'm sorry?
through Northeastern Tech? How is this going to mesh with their schedule?
It's going to settle in well. Northeastern Tech is also bringing students back virtually. Students and parents will be contacted for the start date for Northeastern Tech's schedule, and then it'll be a seamless process after that. We actually are in meeting, I think tomorrow, with Dr. Wagner, or the day after. We have a Zoom meeting scheduled to discuss.
Thank you.
Okay, we're back with the acceptance of the September 2nd startup for kids and the August 17th startup for teachers.
This is only gonna be for the virtual teacher, no teacher assistants,
This is going to be for all staff.
all staff, okay?
Okay, I need somebody to put this in the form of a motion.
I think we need to approve this calendar. If
Yeah,
no one else-
It's going to be my recommendation to you. That is my recommendation.
Yes, I need
That you
approval.
approve this calendar.
I need an approval.
Offer motion that we approve the new calendar that has been presented this evening.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the new calendar for this coming year. All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hands. Opposes? It is unanimous. Thank you.
Don't thank me, thank the staff, because again, they brought the deficits to our attention early, and for that, we're grateful. So,
Thank you very
Moving
much.
on now to,
Just one question, the leap days, now, will that, how many days will teachers work?
it's a great question. Leap days will be funded through a portion of the CARES Act money coming from the State Department of Education. They're paying for those days, so we're not paying for days for staff, kindergarten through 8th grade. We are, however, paying for the days for staff for 9 through 12. So what will happen during those days, students will come in, maybe not all on the same day, definitely not all at the same time. They'll be assessed. We'll have an opportunity to find out what some of the needs might be for them and their homes. We'll deliver devices. We'll try to find out as much medical information and tidy up as best we can all pertinent information for contacts, and then we will roll into our virtual platform.
So that being said, they will work 195 days?
They will work 195 days and be paid for 195 days. Only 5 of those days will be absorbed by the district out of our general funds. We felt that was important enough to do, that the high school be allowed, especially considering the fact we have a new principal, we have a new director of K. We believe it's going to be necessary for them to have a chance to meet with their students just as well as everyone else.
On those leap days that students return, what type of safety measures are in place to create a safe atmosphere for the students?
That's a great question, and again, principals and school administration have, as best possible, and will continue to settle in on how we can best protect students. So, for example, if I'm at the high school, I know I have 1,000 students, I know the capacity of the building. If I look at each classroom, I can comfortably fit 500 students in the building. So we would schedule 500 students on a particular day, only those 500 students to come into the building. We would flip it the next day to catch the other 500. Or you might do 250, 250, 250, 250, 250. Again, I think that's going to be left up to the school and the administrative team. Everyone is required to wear a mask. We have hand sanitation stations set up throughout the school. We will recognize 6 feet of separation for everyone as best we can. Now, let's be realists. That's going to be very difficult for any grade level, whether it's pre-kindergarten or seniors. Some people just haven't seen each other since March 13th. And we're going to do the best we can to keep them separated. Remind students, don't put your hand in your eye, don't put your hand in your mouth. Keep your mask on at all times. Definitely when talking. If you're sick, do not show up at school. If you have been infected or you know someone that has been affected by COVID, definitely do not come to school except. So we have safety measures in place, but will that guarantee us 100%? No, sir.
That's if we go face to face.
We are going to do face-to-face during the leap days. We are definitely going to do face-to-face leap days. We definitely will not have everyone in the building every day, at any time.
Everyone that's doing leap would have to do face-to-face.
Everyone is going to have to do some variation. All school districts are doing some variation of face-to-face during leap days.
And how often is the leap days again?
It's just 5 days.
5 days.
5 days?
First 5 days.
First 5 days.
I'm sorry, not the first 5 days. They're 5 days prior to the first day of school. If you look on our calendar,
It's those,
you'll see our days begin
In
on
August.
August 24th and continue until August 28th.
it's in the last week of August.
That's an easier way of saying it.
Yeah, the last week of August.
Okay, I got the, I got the leap days now, and you said you're gonna stagger the students, you got 1,000 students, and you're gonna bring maybe 500 in, or maybe 200 do what you're doing. We're talking about how long that day will be.
We're going to schedule full days. However, some parents might decide they want them there for a few hours, but we're going to schedule full day activity.
Okay, no,
You're asking about leap days, correct?
Leap days, yes,
Right.
leap days. I thought that was just for evaluation, special needs,
All of that. And again, having enough time to do the things that we're looking to do, we definitely have to do as much as we can in that one day. First and foremost, as I've said from the beginning, we need to know where students are here.
yeah, right, okay, gotcha.
So that's going to take some time. You know, students have to have an opportunity to write, to talk, to express, to share. And then we're going to go into the assessment piece.
So that's only gonna be that, they will only be in a crowd, just for those days that they appear.
I won't say a crowd. They'll be in smaller numbers.
Smaller number, but that, if you bring in 200 a day, they will only be in a group of 200 or either 500, depending on what you bring in. And they will, this building is big enough where they could do the social distancing.
Oh, most
without-
definitely. We can get 500. We can get 500 in here.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it would be tough to say that they won't be in some proximity to one another at some point in time during the day, but, you know, we can find a way. 250 might be a better way. 200 might be a better way. I'm going to leave that up to the principal.
Ms. Manville?
I've had a question asked to me, if a student is signed up for virtual academy, will their students still need to come for the leap days?
They will, because if they don't have a device, we need to deliver a device. And we also want to have an opportunity, as I said, and this is important for parents to hear and know too. We want to have the opportunity to see your kids. If nothing else, give us the one day so that we can be sure that they are safe, that they are well, that we know what their needs are, so that we can address them as best we can. We need to see everyone face to face.
Okay. Mr. Coachman?
Are all other school districts doing this requirement, this is required for all other school
Leap
districts?
days?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
State.
Yes, sir.
And will they take place in their home schools?
The leap days? Yes, sir.
Said what now?
As Ms. Linda said,
It'll be done at their schools.
He asked if everyone would be at their home school.
Okay.
like with 1,000.
Pull that up
That's
a little
really,
bit. Pull your microphone up for some.
I said, well, the number 1,000 that, like Ms. Linda was using, that's really high.
Not 1,000 at one time.
I know that, but I'm saying, say you divide that into 5, let's say McCall, I'll use some, around there 650 to 700, and you do it by 5, you're down a lot lower than 250. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the 1,000 that we were using as a.
That was just a number. It was easier to
as a
divide.
number, actually, well, I'd like for the people to realize that it's not even 250.
For some schools, for Clio,
Yeah.
Clio has 257, 260.
Yeah,
So, you know,
got
you might,
a few kids.
you might be able to do, I don't know how you divide 250 by 5, I guess, what's that? Is that 25 each day or something?
About
like
50
that?
kids at that.
50? Okay.
About 50
You gotta
kids.
Keep them pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Our goal is safety for everyone, not just students, but for staff. And that is something that we're going to do our best in moving forward.
How does this, in terms of what the leadership of the state, South Carolina Governor and School Board Association, Mrs. Spearman's office, Molly Spearman's office, how are we in line with what? Because there's just a lot of chatter out there with the different districts, and I just want you to kind of.
A lot of confusion. I'll just say there's a lot of confusion. I will tell you, in speaking with others, they're doing no better than we are in terms of handling those things that we can't answer. We don't know what COVID is going to look like tomorrow, let alone September 2nd. I will tell you that as we plan and prepare, we do so for Marlboro County School District. So what's happening in Greenville, albeit it's in South Carolina, it may not be the same as what's needed for Marlboro County School District. But we do talk on a regular basis. When I say we, the superintendents across the state share information and provide support to one another. And we're all in this pretty much at the same time. This is happening.
Okay, keep going forward. I apologize, Ms.
On those
Fleming.
weekdays, okay, the children, will there be a time for the parents, can the parents come with, because there are going to be some parents that are gonna have a lot of questions, and some may not have any. Will there be an opportunity before the children come back, for someone to address them if that's needed, and I feel like it would be?
That's a great question. On tomorrow at 10 a.m., we have a virtual town hall for anyone that would like to sign up. That information is available on social media. We're encouraging. Have we filled up yet for the first session? Okay, so there's still spots available. How many?
We won't go till we started getting from the waiting room.
Oh, okay. We can only take 100 at a time. If we need to do double sessions, we'll do double sessions. So that gives us a chance to answer questions. But they also can call the schools and speak with the principals.
I got a question. When they come from leap days, are they coming just for one day? I guess, for example, the high school, if they did 250 per day, or 200 per day, they would only come one day that week?
It depends, and what I mean by that is, I think I'm leaving that to the principals and the staff to decide. So I'll use you for an example. Let's say you are a student that is in need of 6 credits to graduate. As a senior, I want to make sure we have you in pocket, in line. We may not be able to cover everything today, so I may schedule you for, what's today, Tuesday? I may schedule you for Friday. But whatever we do, we're going to personalize it to you as best possible.
And
But
would they stay in only one class that day, or would they change classes?
it's possible that they would be in one class, but it's also possible they might change classes. So it's not going to be a transition like it would be on a normal day, but I could rotate you from guidance office to cafeteria, from cafeteria to media center. It just depends on where we have set up shop to meet your needs. But again, the goal is to try to minimize the numbers as best we can, to alleviate concerns as best we can, and to maximize that time that we have with each individual. And yes, parents may be able to attend. I'm leaving that to the principals because I think we have enough time that we can answer a lot of questions before students begin, before LEAP begins, and that's going to help us by making the decision tonight.
Okay, Mr. Coachman.
You know, a lot of parents are not able to go on Zoom and look at something. Is there a way we can send out a letter to each parent explaining the leap days and what it means, and because some people may not be able to get it?
We can definitely do that. I can ask the principals to get on top of that tomorrow. We'll draft something and send it out. That may have already been done. But to answer your question, yes, we can definitely double back and talk about leap days, talk about the calendar, and talk about the plan that we have tonight. So we can do that. It's posted on our website. I hear you when you say some parents don't have access to the internet. We can definitely send it by mail. It's a great idea.
That'll work.
And you will have bus transportation for those weekdays.
We will provide transportation as needed and as requested to the best of our ability.
As requested, it has to be requested.
In some cases, it may be requested. If you have parents that are telling us, like some are, that they're going to drive their kids to school or they're going to transport them by some means, if one kid lives down a dirt road that we don't know about, we may reach out to them to make sure that they're going to get on the bus.
There will be no normal bus routes for those days?
There'll be normal bus routes, but again, this is an abnormal situation, so we want to be sure that we don't leave anyone out. So we would love for parents to let us know, James is going to be on the bus in the morning, or Tuesday, or whatever day he's scheduled to be there.
And will pre-K be involved in the leap?
Pre-K right now is involved in LEAP, and it goes up to grade 8. and that's covered.
Mr. Driggers.
I know we were kind of in a rock and a hard place this past March, but, I hear a lot of people, even in other districts, talking about the lost children, not being able to keep up with the kids when they're on the virtual program, not doing all the things they're supposed to do. We've had time to look at that. Are we gonna have some safeguards to make sure that our virtual academy is moving smoothly and the students are participating and doing what they should do and getting the grades they deserve?
Let me tell you, to the best of our ability, we're going to provide that. I can't tell you, and I started out by saying that there's nothing that we can do that's going to guarantee 100% that everyone is going to be where we want them to be. But we do have what I consider to be a plan designed to maximize and get the most, same thing is what I said, of each student.
I guess what I'm interested in is the checks and balances there.
Checks and
Like I said,
balances.
I know we didn't have, we were thrown into the fire in March. Like I said, it was a lot of, hit and miss stuff, and we had to do what we had to do, but we've had time to do it now, so we've got checks and balances to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, correct?
I think the everyday interaction as best possible between teacher and student, and that's going into the plan, by the way, not leap days. And we'll talk about that again, I'm sure. I think that's going to be much different than before. Before, back in March, we posted the information, or we sent the information out through Google Docs, and the students submitted it back. Some did, some didn't. Some did better than others. Was it checked the way that it will be checked now? No. So the checks and balances will be in place differently than they were back in March.
I've said this before, and I'm very concerned about the quality of education that we're gonna be giving our kids through virtual learning. I know that the teachers will be presenting it, but will it be received like it should other than face-to-face? You understand what I'm trying to say is, face-to-face, that teacher can give you that look, when you got to do it, and you on the computer, she can give you all the looks, or he can give you all the looks they want to, it may not work. But I just, the quality of education is something that we've got to really be concerned about, making sure that the virtual academy and the virtual part of our education system is doing the things that it should do. And that's where my concern is. And like you said, I know you can't promise anything. We can only do what we can do, but I'm just hoping that we implementing, like I said, a good form of checks and balances to make sure everybody's doing their work.
Again, this is different in a sense that there will be interaction as much as possible, especially in grades 4 through 12. However, I can't guarantee that it's going to be better than brick and mortar, because I don't think that it will be. When it comes to how students learn, I think some will learn better this way, but will it be that way for the masses? I don't know. I will tell you, as we continue with this, and some of you in this room may have even experienced this, this is the way that the world may operate in the future. There are many in this room that achieve academic success online. You're taking classes now, or you're taking classes prior to today for a degree or for a specialized content area. And so on one side, I kind of look at it as a way of preparing students for the future. On the other side, I look at it as they're being thrust into an environment that they may not be familiar. I do think that it's going to be different, because in March, the thrust was sudden. This time, we've had a chance to carefully plan out and prepare how this is going to roll out. And quite naturally, I have an inclination to believe that it will be better.
I hope we're keeping in mind, and everybody hears this, that the parent has a responsibility in all this as well. We're talking constantly about what the school and what the district is going to do, but now the parents has a responsibility as well. If you decide that your child needs to stay home and get it, if we're trying our best to get it out to you, then there has to be some concessions for parents to do their part as well. And that may not have always been done. And by that, I mean the parents need to call maybe the teachers sometime to say that their child doesn't understand or they're not getting it. So there's a part there that the parents have to pay as well.
And some of this will be discussed when we get to the plan. Right now, we're just trying to make sure we agree on the date. Did we get the date settled on?
We're good.
Was there a motion and
It
it was
was
approved?
approved.
Okay.
We're good.
All right.
So we can start into the plan.
So the plan, and I'll ask Dr. Robinson to come up front and just navigate while I talk so I can turn around. First, we're going to talk about the Virtual Academy, and we discussed this last week. Virtual Academy is the option that we are making available for parents who simply do not feel that any environment that we can provide is going to be safe for their child. Now, the Virtual Academy is dependent upon the number of teachers that we have enrolled. And if you look at the chart, not that chart. If you look at the chart since last week when we met and discussed that we would offer Virtual Academy, you'll see that we have almost 1,150. What's coming? Is that? You'll see we have almost 1,150 that have made that decision that their child, to the best of their ability, will not be on a day-to-day rotation for any of our schools. At the high school, you see that number to be 328 that have signed up for Virtual Academy, and you can continue with each school and see the numbers. And if you want to look at it another way, you can look at it as one of every 4 parents has said that I want my child to be home, receiving their learning. And so for a parent's investment, that's a parent saying, I want to participate in how my child is going to be educated. The next question was, do you have high-speed internet at home? You see overwhelmingly, the answer to that is yes. So of the 1,139, I believe 1,000 have answered yes. We do have access to the internet. The next question that has to be answered is, do you plan to keep your child out for the entire semester or for the entire year? Based on the responses that we have, you see there's a good split between those that are unsure and those that say the entire year, but there are definitely some that say the first 12 weeks and some say the first year, and that number is probably 2 of every 3. This is important because I think some parents are saying, I would like to wait until the end of first semester and see what the data shows. If there's a vaccination that's out, some people will take it, of course, some people will not. But this to me is a parent saying, I want to be involved in how my child is going to be educated. Now,
I hate to interrupt you, but at that point, what you're saying with the Virtual Academy, if we're lucky, in January a vaccine is found and we go back to full force school, are we still offering Virtual Academy in this plan for the rest of the year?
When we plan for second semester, it's going to be for the rest of the year. So right now, we're planning for first semester.
Good enough.
Parents have a chance to opt out. I believe that is in November.
Okay.
And if they opt out for second semester, that allows us a chance to plan properly. But once we start second semester, they won't have a chance to pop out. They'll finish the year.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. McCoy, trying to figure out virtual, a little bit. If first, let's just scenario first graders in McCall. There's 5 of them that say they want virtual. Clyde is 3. Bennettsville, there's 6 or 8 or 10. All right, and you put them all together, you get, let's say, 20, 25. Does that one teacher virtually teach all 25 children?
That's a great question, and the answer to that is possible. But they will teach from their home school. And so to accommodate parents' requests, and I'm glad you asked, because I was gonna go over that a little bit later. You may not have 5 first graders that say, I'll just use 4th graders, that say, I want to be in virtual academy. 3 at another school, 7 at another school. We can't allocate teachers for 3 and 4 students at a time. And so Chief might be a teacher on site at Bennettsville Intermediate, but he could very well have students from 3 different schools because it's being done virtually. And so it really wouldn't matter where you are, so long as you have a device and access to the computer. I'm sorry, internet.
You wouldn't need first grade teacher teaching virtually at every school. You wouldn't need,
Correct.
at all grades.
Correct. But so that we can have some comfort levels for this teacher, they will teach from their home school. I will note too, and this is something that's interesting, I think some teachers are waiting to find out what we're doing tonight, because we have fewer than a dozen teachers that have signed up to say that they want to teach virtually. Now don't panic, because 12 can have a class size of 25. So, 25 times 12 for someone that adds faster than me might get us where we need. But again, the goal is to not pull FTEs out of buildings unless we have to, and then meet the needs of the parents as requested.
I got a question. Okay, so in order for the teacher to reach all the children that she may have, like you said, she may have 25 students in her class, virtual. Right. I don't want the group of kids that a teacher have to be more than she would in the classroom, because I would like.
That's what they would have in the classroom. I just use 25 as a number.
Right, for everybody to have the opportunity to,
We-
get back with that teacher and ask questions.
Right. We would still operate with the same ratios that we do now.
Okay, so the second question I wanna ask is that, will y'all be reissuing out the Chromebooks?
Yes.
To students?
Yes.
Do y'all have hotspots?
We do not have hotspots, and I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later.
Okay.
We may get hotspots, but we're gonna try something a little different approach and see how that works out too. There's a
I got Ms. Fleming.
Okay, let me just, what was the student body population?
You're gonna have to use your mic.
What was the student body population last year? Roughly anybody? How many?
3850.
3850, okay, now how many responses, how many of those students have you heard from?
For virtual academy?
Virtual Academy or
1039, what did that number say?
1039?
I might be wrong, 1139.
1139, so we got a lot.
That's a third. I think that's about a third.
That's a third.
Okay.
So, to answer the question a different way, about a third parents have said, my child will not be back in the school face to face. So what does that signify to you? It's no different than the information we shared with you last week with the surveys. We've surveyed parents continuously, beginning back in late May, early June, all the way up to as recent as early July. And it changes. It changes based on what? What the science says. And so it has now gotten to a point where many are concerned about sending their kids to school.
Mr. Grant.
What kind of plans do we have in place, if any, for parents that work and their kids are gonna be at home virtually? You just gonna leave that up to them, or?
Well, you mean if they sign up for virtual academy?
One way or the other, it's gonna be virtual.
Correct.
Whether it's the academy or the hybrid option.
Correct.
Can I answer that, Dr.
it- Ma'am,
Can I answer that, or?
please.
We are in the process of forming partnerships with, for example, Bennettsville Methodist Church, who is willing to work with us to accommodate parents who may need childcare. So we've already formed or started the conversation with that entity, and we're going to be pursuing other entities. If you're aware of a church or organization, we would love to have that contact information so that we can serve more students.
And when you say we've worked out something with them, I'm sure that would be at a cost to the parents?
That I can't answer, because I don't know.
There wasn't a cost that was mentioned, but I'll answer the question differently if I can. It would be very similar to what we experienced for March. So, if the question is, what are parents going to do with their kids while they are at work? I don't have an answer for you with that. In short, we would not be at school every day face to face with all students.
Mr. Coachman?
Okay, you said a third of the students definitely going virtually.
And that number could go up.
I mean,
Today is
but, I mean,
Tuesday.
yeah,
It could go up
but-
between now and
but
Friday.
Right now, a third of the students don't want face-to-face, will want. to go
Parents
virtual.
have elected for them.
Parents,
Right.
So 2/3 of the parents is okay with the kids going back to school, going face-to-face, based on, I mean.
Well, no, that's not necessarily true. Again, if you go back to the surveys from last week, a parent saying, I want virtual academy, is saying for the year.
Right,
At least first semester, but for the year.
I'm talking about the
And then
number.
you have another group of parents that are saying, I'm fine with my child starting virtually.
Okay, so there's no number on. how many.
Meaning, when the numbers reflect that it's time to come back, then they can come back, whether it's September, October, November, December.
So we're not gonna have any kids face-to-face starting off, that's what you're saying?
I didn't say that, I haven't gotten through the plan yet.
That's what I'm asking about the numbers.
We're gonna get, once we go through the plan, we'll get to that.
Let me go ahead and answer that question.
Let's go through the plan, and then it'll be better for us to ask. I think a lot of what we're asking will be answered through the plans.
Well, I don't know, but I'll answer, just because I don't want you to forget it, because I think it's a good question. Essentially, what you want to know is whether or not we're going to have students in school every day.
Face-to-face.
Face-to-face.
Exactly what I was asking.
Right. We will have some students in school.
That's a difference.
Now, will all students be in school every day, face-to-face? No. But I'll use, if I can, BPS. I don't know if Gail's out there. I'll use BPS. At Miss Redding's school, she may say Monday, I'll have pre-K and kindergarten students come so that we can assess them, address them, make sure we're meeting their needs. Tuesday, it may be first grader. Thursday, it may be second grader. Friday, maybe third graders. But I don't believe we're at a point where we can say every day, any student is going to be in school 5 days a week. And that was part of what was presented last week. So there's the only difference that we are proposing tonight as we move into this is that schools be allowed the opportunity to provide personalized learning. Now, we will have some parents that say, I want my student in school every day. I don't think we're going to be able to do that. But schools will be open every day, 5 days a week.
Mr. Smith?
With the data that you received, and you have 3 columns there, I'm missing the column. Was everyone, all student parents were surveyed? Where are the ones that did not answer, or those who said just plain no?
Well, this survey is just for those that registered for Virtual Academy. They have registered. The survey, if you go back to last week, the survey that we sent out most recently, I believe there were maybe 760 that responded, that talked specifically about what their plans were for students returning to school, or virtual school, or, yes, there's about 7. So is that 3850? No. But all we can do is put the information out there and hope that they respond.
That's what I was asking,
Right.
everyone had a chance to.
Everyone had a chance to, yes, sir. The surveys were sent out not just by the district, but by schools as well.
all of our rules and regulations for attendance still apply to virtual school.
All rules and regulations for attendance apply to virtual school, with the exception that high school seat attendance rules have been lifted. So, let me say it in a way that everyone can understand it. In high school, you have to accumulate, I think is it 920 hours per course, per semester? 1020? 120. Okay, 120 hours. That may not be the case for first semester, because it might be impossible. I'll say it this way: a 90-minute block times 4 is going to give you 6 hours a day. I think having a student sit in front of a screen for 6 hours a day might be unrealistic. And so courses and time schedules will be modified. So it may be 1 hour of math, 1 hour of English, 1 hour of social studies, 1 hour of science. It might be, for those students that are taking CTE classes, 1 hour of math, 1 hour of science, and then an hour and a half of my CTE class. You know, some might be required to come on site to do the face-to-face, and some might be able to be met doing virtual programs.
Okay, so what you're saying basically is, yeah, I'm old, but when I went to school, you know, you sat down and they said, are you here today, Danny Driggers? You know, you called your name and you held your hand up and you were attendance. And then after that, you're saying 1 hour of math or 1 hour of science or whatever on those tokens. So during that time frame, the teacher is teaching for that hour, so that student is going to be required to sit there for that hour and participate in that class.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. And all of that's going to be kept updated some type of way through our computer systems.
Well, I think, let's go to your example. When I call the roll, I'll call the roll, and I'll see who's on my screen, and I'll check that off. Now, that's going to be my way of knowing that I had 25 students that were in attendance. I can't tell you that during that hour's time, Danny Driggers, you know, might put a picture up, you know, leave the volume on mute and have a picture up. But I can tell you, Danny Driggers, at least the D will be up on the screen, or will be required to be on the screen.
Okay.
And again, let me say this, I've said it over and over, I don't think any of us are going to be able to come up with a plan that's going to meet every specific goal that we would like for students to reach as it relates to virtual. Is it better, or can it be better than face-to-face? It's possible, but we're used to education being delivered in a certain type of way, face-to-face. Like you said, you're old, I'm old too. The only way I know is face-to-face. But this generation, at this time, virtual is an alternative, and we're learning with it. Our teachers are learning with it, they're getting better with it, and we continue to move forward with it. You want me to continue?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And so, as we look at our options, option 2A, we'll go to a different screen, okay? Well, we have two options, 2A and the virtual academy. And there's a hybrid or a variation, and as I said earlier, what we're hoping to do, and our principals and staff are hoping to do, is we're trying to provide I'll say a customized learning environment, a student-centered environment where students in grades pre-K through 3rd with each school, that's BPS, Wallace, McCall, and Clio, they will have first option of being in school. Will it be every day? school will be open every day, but the student may not be there every day. They'll have small class sizes, 10 to 12, 13 maybe, but not many more than that. And students will enter school on a rotation. For grades 4 through 12, it's going to be all virtual. However, as we continue, counselors, teachers, and staff may find it best to have a group come in on Monday. Let's say if I'm in the 7th grade, I want to have an assessment for 7th graders. I'll talk with the parents and say on September 15th, we'll have all 7th graders report to the building. We'll send buses out for transportation. We'll begin at this time, we'll end at this time, and we'll return them home. I'll do the same thing again for 8th graders on Friday. So this model allows us the chance to not just meet the needs of the student from a virtual standpoint, but in some cases from a physical standpoint. I think one of you asked, what if I don't have the internet? So if we see that there's been no activity at the home, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we make sure we get someone out to find out what's going on, and then the following week, we may say, this group of students we're going to have in the school, because we want to make sure that they're getting services.
So our children, our 3,800 children.
Ms. Nan, you have to talk into the microphone.
Our 3,800 children, now that you present, they are almost, all of them are accounted for. You heard communications, because you said 1,100 and something for the virtual, and now you're saying the pre-K through 4, they're gonna come into school sometime.
Pre-K through 3rd.
Pre-K through 3rd, they're gonna come in, not every day, but sometime during the week. My question is, do we have almost all of our 3,800 children accounted for?
I can't tell you the answer to that. I can tell you registration has begun. And so we register students all the way up to the first day of school. I can find out how many students have registered and get that information back to you. But I can't tell you today that I know the answer, because that's not a requirement right now.
Well, I understand that, but if we're trying to track children and keep up with them, and they've been gone since March, and, I would not like to see Marlboro County, with that thing we got from Senator Malloy last week, I kind of read over that, and we come back to school whenever we open, and we have 400 or 500 children. We have not heard anything from them. They have not signed up for anything. That was my question. How do we? And I'm just looking. Hopefully, we'll be somewhere near 3,800, because we've never lost that. We don't want to. Every year, I know we lose a few students, but if you got 1,100 already accounted for, and you're saying you register up into the first day of school, maybe this is a question that needs to be asked when school will open, and then we can see if all our children are accounted for.
We can bring the numbers back at the August 3rd meeting, but I do want to go back to the letter that was sent out. I think our numbers were at about 47.
What's what now?
Our numbers for students that had not received, or we had not been in contact with, was at about 47.
Yes, right.
And I say this because initially, when it went out, it was thought the question was how many students did not actively participate.
Okay.
That's different than how many students have we not heard from at all. So we know that there are at least 47 students that we did not hear from at all. And that could be because they moved, but we would like to reach out to them as well. So next month, on August 3rd, I'll find out from each school how many parents have registered students virtually, and I'll get that information for you.
Ms. Manville.
As I recall, in our last meeting, you had an option 2B, which accounted for having the pre-K through 3rd coming to school. This is a combination now?
It's a combination, and again, thank you for mentioning that. This just actually allows for us to personalize the learning. Again, because we have this flexibility, because schools have this flexibility, we believe that we'll be able to get more accomplished. Having this time to plan between now and the leap days is definitely going to be to our advantage. But my conversations with the principals, or that they're excited about this moving forward. And I can tell you, from the teachers that have reached out, I had a virtual town meeting with teachers last week with about 80, 85 teachers. We're answering questions as best we can, trying to alleviate concerns as best we can, and I think they appreciate that more than us not talking to them.
Dr. McCoy, okay, I've got a first grader, and they are scheduled to come to face-to-face on Tuesday. Do they do e-learning Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And with that e-learning, so when you come on Tuesday, I'll just give you a scenario that may happen. This is an example. When you come on Tuesday, we're going to assess to see what you have done, what you've been able to complete, what you have not been able to complete. We'll build a program for you moving forward. And then during this consultation in small group settings, we might say or ask or request to your family that you be allowed to come in on Thursday if possible, because we believe we can catch you up a little bit better. That's going to be better than a week-long you going and having to put it together. We're also hoping, and parents have to understand this, and I appreciate the comments from the board chair, parents have to be involved. But I can tell you, many parents, self-included, if I had school-age kids, cannot do the work that's being asked of our students today. Now, we all know how to read and write. We all know how to multiply, sometimes without a calculator, but it looks different when you're not doing it on a daily basis. And so we don't want parents to get stuck. We have a help desk located on our app, and I say a help desk. It can help whether it's a technology question or if it's a question related to pedagogy. We're trying to find ways to assist parents, and we do want them to be a part of the process, but we don't want them to get frustrated to the point that they just tap out.
Mr. Driggers.
I've got a two-part question for you, Dr. Ford. How is this virtual going to affect our special ed kids and the AMI school? I mean, we have a budget money set aside for them, and we're not gonna have anybody kick out of school or send them to AMI. So how's this going to affect us, the special ed and the AMI program with virtual learning?
It's a great question. Let me start with special needs, and Stacy, I believe Stacy's not here. Stacy Barronell has been in contact with her special needs teachers. All students that have an IEP their services will continue, they will be met. This is just another way that we might be able to service students. If we know that we have 12 students with a particular disability, we might be able to bring them into school in small settings and work with them one-on-one to service them. In some cases, teachers will go to homes. We're not encouraging that, but in some cases that might be necessary or needed. But it's our job and responsibility to make sure that we meet all of the goals of the IEP, and that's what we're set up to do. Now, the second part of that question related to AMI, you are correct. We hope that we don't have to kick anybody off the computer. And I say kick off tongue in cheek, but discipline should be down across the district. You know, not a whole lot of trouble you can get into online. Well, let me take that back. There is some trouble you can get into online. We have to hope and pray that students are on our side. One of the things that we do know that if it gets out of hand, we have about 3 seconds to get to the click button, and we can take care of that. So how do we address those students who may not be at AMI? We haven't figured that part out. And I say that because we do have some students that have to return at the beginning of the year for deeds done last year. And so we'll see what those numbers look like and then figure accordingly. Teachers may be required to teach virtually students from around the district. Teachers may be required to help assist other schools with locating students. or mitigating what we consider to be barriers for students' learning success.
Mr. Coachman.
You can give Mr. Branch first.
Mr. Branch.
The kids that are in 4K through third grade virtually, will they come in also with the hybrid students at the primary or playa or wherever?
There will be opportunities for them to be in school. Again, no one is looking at it as all, let me see, at BPS, for example, there may be 250 pre-K through third, maybe 300. They won't all be in school on the same day at the same time. But depending on how well the principal and staff can figure a plan that can accommodate the most students as best possible, there will be opportunities for them to be there more than one day.
Okay, my question is.
There may be.
If we feel like it's okay for the 4K through third grade to come maybe one day a week, why wouldn't we look at that option for other grades also? If you're gonna do it at a low number, especially at a high school, I mean, you got a lot of room.
One of the things that I think, that's a great question, I'm glad you asked it. One of the things that I think that we haven't talked about in great detail is the fact that transportation for doing what you're asking is going to be almost impossible. Our students are on the bus on average about 90 minutes. Some routes are more, of course, some are a little less. If we sought to do that throughout the district on any given day, we'd have to have bus drivers run routes from 6 a.m. to probably 6 p.m. That's going to interrupt instruction time in the building because it's going to take longer to get kids, because we can only get 36 on a bus. So the bus capacity route has been cut in half. Many of our buses are packed, I won't say ceiling to floor, but they're packed. So when you cut that, when you reduce that number by half, that means you have to be prepared to run a double route in some cases, and in some it might be a triple route. And that takes away from class time. And so the question becomes, do we want kids on the bus or do we want kids receiving instruction?
Why would they be on the bus longer than they would if it was not a pandemic going around?
Because we can only get 50% on the bus.
Mr. Coachman.
Okay, so basically up on the 2A, pre-K through third will be the only ones in the building. 4 through 12, they're going all virtual.
All virtual, but there will be opportunities for
Right.
students and parents to interact in the building.
Well, that's, and this is a question that we've been getting out of. What's gonna happen, do we have a plan in place if a child or a teacher comes up positive with COVID-19 in one of our buildings?
It's a great question. And the answer, the short answer is yes. And that will be detailed and it will be provided to each school, to each family before we get to school. But I can tell you in short, we're going to get some legal counsel to draft something, but it will say something similar to this. Dear parent, at ABC school, it has been made known to us that an individual in the school has tested positive for COVID. Although we do not know that there is any imminent danger upon your child, we do suspect that there may have been some contact. To what level that is, again, we may not know. We advise you strongly to have your child tested and possibly yourself. Now, again, I'm going to leave that to the legal expert to put together, but one thing we cannot do is reveal who the person is, because that's a violation of HIPAA. But we do want to alert families as much and as best possible if and when there's a situation that occurs. And by the way, I think we have to prepare for that with the anticipation that that is going to happen.
Will we shut the building down for a short period of time for?
That's one of the reasons why we don't want to have large numbers of people in the building. So will we shut the building down? Again, it depends on the circumstance and the situation. But will we clean as best possible for the areas that we believe a person may have been? Most definitely. And here's what I mean by that. You'll have a lot of cases where teachers will exit their car, enter the building, go into their classroom, and teach. Leave their classroom, go back to their car, and go home. So it may not be necessary to close an entire building down, but let's say a student tests positive. Let's say 3 students test positive. Trying to trace where that student may have been may be in such a way that we don't have a choice but to say, we're going to shut it down for 3 or 4 days until we know for certain that, I can't say the coast is clear, but that we don't have something upon us that we can't get away from.
Mr. Smith?
We're bringing children back into classrooms. What type of physical changes have been made in classroom areas? Any barriers of any sort been installed, or anything has been changed in physical infrastructure that's going to keep staff and students safe?
We have some signage available, and then we also have and are removing desks and chairs in classrooms that allow for the social distance spacing. That will continue as we get closer to, but I can tell you, again, with our best efforts, we're trying to do everything we can to keep everyone safe. But if you look at what the science says, and of course, again, that's going to be subjective to who you want to believe. They say masking up, constant washing of hands, and 6 feet of separation is going to be sufficient in most cases.
Someone, and it may have been Mr. Brett, sent out the,
Yeah,
I saw that.
yeah.
is that something that the district could be interested in? It looked pretty good to me.
And I can tell you, and I want to say this the right way, there are many different things that are being sent and shopped around. They're designed to do one thing, and that's increase profit levels. So if you look at that item that was sent, and thank you for sending it, the students are seated, the barrier's there seemingly, but it goes over the top. It goes around the side. So again, when I look at what I'm reading and hearing and talking and discussing with others, what's best is mask up, wash hands frequently, and keep 6 feet of separation. I've been in consultation, and we've had some sit on our task teams, those that are in the medical profession, and again, they say the same thing. And I think you might be able to attest to this a little bit more, Ms. Bright, or maybe you have something different to offer on that topic.
I want to talk about the barrier.
Your mic.
I want to talk about the barrier, because I would feel better if the pre-K through 3rd graders did have barriers. For the simple fact, those are the children that's gonna bite off his sandwich, drink his drink that he got sitting up there. 'Cause I know I got a 4-year-old that if you leave your soda, he's gonna get it, and, we're not sure if this thing is airborne or droplet. One minute they say it's droplet. We changed from being droplet to droplet and contact. And maybe droplet, contact, and airborne. Okay, but if there's a barrier and I'm sitting here and I sneeze, there's a barrier between me and Jackie. Okay, so chances are he's not gonna come in contact with my secretions because there is a barrier.
Are you talking about the barrier with the mask? Because if you have the mask
I'm
on.
not talking about the mask, because we will all also see the demonstration where you can have your mask on and sneeze, and it's still gonna expel outwards. I'm talking about the plastic barriers that, provides an extra protection between those children in the classrooms. So if that's something that we can possibly do, I think we need to look into it. Because just hand washing and wear your mask when it comes to 6 and 7-year
train them, the teacher in the classroom still have a little bit more chance to say, don't share that, stay on your side of the room. You know, so I don't downplay that barrier. I think that barrier is desperately needed. You know, I don't know how expensive it would be, to put them on the desk, but other districts are doing it. And I think that, maybe we need to have that extra protection if we're gonna send them back, because I guarantee you, somebody's gonna come down with this coronavirus. Don't necessarily have to be anything that we've done in school, okay? But like reality is, I work in the health field. So if I send my second grader to school, I don't know when I'm gonna come positive. So potentially he's positive. Potentially he can affect the kids in the other classroom, but it's all about contact.
Now, I will say, if that's the wish of the board, then I'll carry it out. It's not my professional opinion that I share with you on this, because again, in all conversations that I've had, I feel like, you know, those products are designed to increase profit margins. And I don't wanna argue with you, I just said I disagree. So let me make sure I say that. And they are costly. But again, if that's the desire of the board, if you're telling me that's what you want me to do as a board, then that is something that I will look into and bring you the cost estimates for August. I can tell you again, that's not going to be my recommendation, but I work to please you, so you tell me which direction you want to go in that, and we will. But every dollar that we spend for that potentially is a dollar that we could have used for something
And that may be true.
instructional.
But when we talking about the protection of these kids that I don't wanna send back to the schoolhouse anyway, okay? I think that any, safety devices or anything precautionaries that we can do, since we're going to send them back into the school, is gonna be well worth whatever penny that we're gonna spend. Because we're gonna spend the money one way or the other. There's always something that we can spend the money on. So if it means adding more protection for those students, then I think that's what we need to look at. And that's just my 2 cents.
It's a good 2 cents. It's a real good 2 cents. That might be something to look into.
I'll
We're
get the
talking
cost
about
estimates and bring it.
15 kids per class, and 15 kids with barriers, because they're still be coming in sections or in groups. So that limits the number of partitions you will need. So if it's limited to 15 per class, then there is some cost, but there's also, my understanding, grant money being bought out and sent out pretty regularly with grants. Some being CARES, I know that's already been set aside for something else, but there may be other monies other than our money that we may be able to get for safety reasons. And I don't see the government not looking into providing some other, I know they're providing PPEs, and maybe that's something that somebody needs to look into.
We'll get the cost estimates and bring those back to you.
And also look at if there's a possibility of finding any grants anywhere out there just for that particular purpose.
We have money that we can use from the CARES money. So again, that is something that we'll do. I'll have Herbert, he's probably already got some cost estimates, and we'll talk with the principals and find out how many they would need.
Doesn't need to be
And
fancy.
we don't have any situations that are similar to the picture that was shared, where 4 kids would be at a table. Each kid would be at their individual desk, spread in the room 6 feet apart. So a barrier, again, a barrier in how our room configurations are set might not be, it's not my recommendation, but I'll gladly have it.
If we can just
That's
attach,
what you want.
yeah,
I'll have it.
just look at attaching
That's easy.
something to the desk where the child is sitting.
I'll
Mr.
have that
Coach,
ready for you.
Well, let us,
let me get Mr. Coach.
Is that something, if we choose to go that way, that the CARES Act money could be spent on?
Most definitely. That's a part of PPE.
Mr. Smith.
and I understand the cost factor of it, but let us not leave a stone turned.
Say no more. I'll have it for you. That's easy. Like I said, all I have to do is offer my thoughts, but if that's your wish, that is my duty.
I have one other question.
Let me get, I'll be right back to you.
If it's about that same thing, let him ask, because mine's going back to another subject.
I just wanna ask, is mask gonna be mandatory, is optional?
We are going to, and some of you probably seen on the door when you walked in here in the high school, that is a requirement for anyone that enters the building, mask. Now, can I tell you 100% that some may not wear the mask because of respiratory issues? Will there be medical exceptions? Yes, for students and adults. I can tell you that we'll probably see students slide them up and down, but they are going to be required.
Mr. Norton?
I've got a fourth grade student, mine. We've said, we keep using the term
You
either,
have to speak in.
we keep either using the term face-to-face or hybrid or virtual. But yet we're talking, option 2A says digital, not virtual. What's the difference, and why would I want my child in one or the other?
Let me go back to the definitions we gave last week. Digital is everyone that has a device will be enrolled in a class using this device. Virtual simply says, I'm not thinking about coming back. I want the option, I've made the decision, my child is going to be here. Digital is how we will deliver instruction for everyone else in the district that's not attending day to day.
Okay. So a virtual child, if I choose virtual for my child, I would have to keep him there. But if y'all,
At least for the first semester, starting out.
okay. But if I chose digital at the end of a 9 weeks or something, and you brought them back face to face, I could change.
Right, you don't have to choose digital. That's a given. If you don't choose virtual, you're enrolled in digital. And so, let's say, the end of October, since I'm being hypothetical, let's say the top of October, we find that it's safe and clear for everyone to return every day face to face. I'm already set and plugged to go.
Okay?
Another way of looking at it is, a parent makes a choice, that's virtual. You make the choice, that's digital.
Okay. Digital, if I have a question for the teacher, I have to call it in, is that correct?
No, sir, you'll be able to see me face to face or screen to screen.
I know I'll be able to see, but can I talk to you?
You,
Digital?
yes,
Digital.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Would the video,
Just, yes, just like Zoom.
virtual and digital be in the same, virtual and hybrid be in the same class?
No, separate classes.
Is it possible that even after this first year, you'll continue with the virtual, even if schools open back up?
It's possible. I mean, you know, if the response is there, and I think we'll be much better prepared to meet the demands if it goes up. It's possible. And by the way, many school districts have had some type of virtual academy for quite some time, whether it's for alternative learning, for students that have been remanded out of school, in some cases disabilities, maybe just not at this large of a platform, but it has been happening. So yes, it's possible.
If you have a child that only has, let's say he only needs a few credit hours and he's a senior, is there any kind, will he have to go to all classes? Or can he just take enough to get in?
Okay, let me make sure I'm answering the question. If I only need 2 classes, am I going to have a schedule for 4?
Right.
It depends. We're going to encourage as much as possible all students to have and carry a full load. If it's 2 classes here and 2 classes at NETC, we're going to try to stress that. And the reason being is because, the very first reason is because we want our kids to be college and career ready. Some of you have heard us talk about it. We need to improve that rate and that ratio. Some students may decide, I'm not going to a college, but we can place that student in a preparation class with ASVAB, or we can place that student in a college scholarship writing course. I mean, there are different ways for for us to meet the needs of the student, but unless they have all 24 credits and at least have met the basic requirement to be college and career ready, we're going to require them to carry full load.
I saw Ms. Wright.
I was gonna ask, the difference, okay, so my understanding between virtual and digital, virtual, once the second semester kicks in, they'll continue that throughout the school year,
If they choose to do so.
if they choose to do so.
Correct.
And the digital, they have the option of everything, if you can go back into the school, they have the option of going back into the school.
Or if they register for second semester virtual for, by the November date.
And digital is really the board's decision.
Yeah.
So
But
when
hold
we
on,
say,
because I don't want to confuse that.
Okay.
So, and here's all I'm saying. A student can be in the regular environment digitally and decide, hey, this is what I want, and sign up for second semester. Yes.
Okay.
But, go ahead, Dr. Robinson. I think she was gonna explain something else.
just that the digital, to be separate from the virtual, is an academy that you're choosing to enroll in a program for your student, versus digital, will remain with the homeschool, which may go face-to-face. As Dr. McCord said, in October, the numbers or the data may change, and we go face-to-face. But as a parent, if you chose virtual academy, you're saying, I made my decision until January 27th, I believe is the new date.
In the first
now.
semester.
In the first semester, I'm gonna stick with the virtual academy.
At a minimum.
We keep talking about,
I'm sorry. That brings up another question for me. If I had a child and I had him digitally, had him going to school digitally, and we decided in November that we were gonna go face to face. Now, I have no option but face to face, is that right?
It depends on the date. If the deadline is passed for virtual, yes, but depending on the numbers, because some may say, you know, I'm coming out second semester, it may balance itself out.
I'm worried about from October till January.
Right. And I can't tell you definitively yes or no, because I don't know what it's going to look like.
If I were a gambler, I'd go virtual. Then I'd know my child was out.
Well, you know they're out, but, you know, if you were a gambler, you could say my child is definitely out until January 27th.
Yeah.
But if, again, mid-October, early October, we find that the coast is clear, my child might say, hey, you know what, Mom, Dad, I'd like to be back in school with my buddies.
I can understand that.
But I can't go back.
Understand that.
Right.
I won't be with my buddies, and I would be in the afternoons, whether I was in school or not. But, you know, I'm just sitting here thinking, I guess I'm thinking it personally.
Right.
As well as,
There are a lot of questions, Mr. North, and board and community, that we may not even cover all the questions tonight. I can tell you, I don't have an answer that's going to meet everyone's need. I'm not going to make something up, but we're going to continue to do the best we can to deliver a quality instructional program. And I believe in conversations with my principals, as well as with those teachers that were on the virtual last week, I believe we're going to do that.
Mr. Driggers?
Dr. McCord, we've talked about the NETC dual enrollment. Do we know yet how it will be offered? Will it be offered face-to-face, or will it be offered virtual? Everything there will be virtual, any dual enrollment? Okay.
And not just NETC, again, many of you I'm sure have seen where college campuses across the country are saying first semester is going to be all virtual.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Fleming?
I just want to say thank you to Dr. McCord and his staff. This is ground that has never been plowed before, and you've done a good job. There are going to be questions from this board and from the community, and we know you've worked hard. and we know that, you're not gonna cover everything. Don't beat yourself up too hard if you don't cover everything, because things are changing daily. And as a board member, people are asking me questions, and, they said this yesterday, today they're saying something else. So, as I said at the beginning, we have a lot of work to do, and to bring our people and our parents up to speed where, they need to be. And for I'm sure Mr. Watson can understand that, but we don't wanna leave no child behind, do we? That was a program that you worked so hard in, and I put some time in. Leave no child behind, and, you all have worked hard, and you're constantly changing, and then you got a fickle community out there with parents. But we have to stay the course. Since they say we're going back, I'll have to support it with reservations, but just continue to do the hard work.
If you don't mind me asking, what are the reservations?
Well, my reservations are, the fact that we do not have, as I said last meeting, to come to school now as a new, if, on the normal times, rubella, measles.
Oh, you mean reservations with the edit to
virus.
come back? Oh,
I
thought
have
you
no
meant with the plan.
reservations about your plan,
Okay,
no.
okay.
It's just that I wish, but you got to have something.
With the
And-
virus, I got
Yeah,
you. Okay.
I have reservations about, not, you know, abnormal fears, but just trying to keep up with what's going on. But,
Right.
those are my reservations, and parents have that too, but I would, whenever I have an opportunity to talk with anybody, ask any questions, I'm going to do all I can to relay their fears, and then call their school, call Miss Kane and Clio, call that's the principal, Mr. Watson at high school, or somebody in his staff, let them walk you through it, because they know the plan better than I do. But all this hard work, trust me, I know it's a lot of work.
Let me say this too, if I can, and thank you, and I know board chair constantly refers to parents and their need to be involved, the need for them to be involved. More than anything else, if we have learned nothing else, we have learned the need for everyone to be involved in a participatory manner. It starts by reading. Read the plan, look it over, make sure you have some idea of what it is and what we're looking to do. Next, I'd like to say thank an educator. From bus driver all the way up to board member. Thank an educator, because this is unlike any other time in the history, in our history. It happened 100 years ago, but unless I'm mistaken, no one in this room was here 100 years ago. Thank those that are putting in the work to get this done. And I can't say enough about our staff. Again, social workers, counselors, teachers. They are working right now. They're working right now, pre-contract for many, to get ready for who knows what it's going to be. It might be 1 month, it might be 2 months, it might stretch out until December. Again, it depends on who you listen to. But I am thankful that this isn't something that we put together overnight. I am thankful that we are patient. We know fluidity is our code for patience, because it is subject to change depending on what the data shows. I know all of you, and if you haven't, check it out on DHEC website. We're considered to be medium in Marlboro County, at medium risk. The only county in the state of South Carolina currently at medium risk. What could be the reason for that? What could be the reason for that, other than the fact that we work together, we stick together, and we love on one another? So I thank you for allowing us an opportunity to present this plan.
I got a question for you, make sure I'm understanding that. This is your recommendation. If we were to approve this recommendation, it's a minimum of a semester for virtual and a minimum for 9 weeks for digital.
Correct. And we'll look at the science. We'll look at the science along the way.
You made a comment just saying it may last a month or it may last And I was making sure that I understood what I was doing here. If we approve it, the digital is a minimum of 9 weeks.
Right.
And the virtual is a minimum of a semester.
Right, correct.
Then it can change.
Correct, and I apologize, I said a month, meaning COVID.
Yeah.
It may decide, hey, I'm done here, and leave.
Hey, but like, the plan that we had to submit, did you not have to submit one on the 17th or 16th or something?
This is what we submitted.
That's what you submitted?
Right.
Okay.
Has it been approved?
I don't know, I'm just thinking, what you sent us said that you had to have an in-person option for all students. Do we have an in-person option for all students?
We do. School is going to be open every day, 5 days a week, for all students. All students may not be in attendance, but it is going to be open for all students.
I'm just thinking, we're constantly talking about what could happen. And every time I hear about a scenario about what happens if somebody gets affected, what does it do to the other kids in the class? So my way of thinking is the hugest risk you can take is allowing your child to come to school. If you think about it, if your child comes to school, it's at risk of getting something, of getting COVID, if someone else has it. If they stay home, it diminishes that risk. And if your child does or is affected by it, then it's gonna affect every child that's in that classroom. So you're taking a huge chance on you, and I'm not discouraging anyone from telling their children to come to school, but look what happens when they do. It's huge.
Don't go creating.
No, I'm just saying, but that's the truth. If we're gonna be transparent, that's the truth. I mean, that is the truth. And so that's something that everybody needs to look at. I want mine to come to school, my grandkids, but it may not be safe right now. And I wouldn't want to take that risk. I would.
What plan would you choose?
I would do virtual or at least the e-learning. And that's just me. And I'm not advocating that to anyone. Let me make that disclaimer. I'm speaking of me. Until somebody can figure out, and I already know God's gonna have to do that one. And when he decides to do it, then we'll be done away with it. And then we can go back to something similar to normal. We can ask questions until the cows come home. It does not change the fact that this pandemic is here. No one has come up with any way of getting rid of it. And what we have to do is the same thing that everybody in this world is doing right now. Figure out what's best. And no one has come up with a solution to that yet. That was mine for the night.
So I guess my final question is, since it has been submitted, we don't vote on anything tonight.
Yes, you vote to accept. Well, I can tell you, based on our conversations last week when we were present, we're not going to be denied. Again, like I said, our plan has been submitted based on what's best for Marlboro County School District.
I'm not arguing that part. I'm just looking at the part where it says you gotta have a person-to-person option and things of that nature. But, I mean, your plan is this is acceptable as any plan. Cause, I don't think there is, as you said, a third thinks one thing, a third thinks another, and a third thinks something else. So whatever we decide, 2/3 are against us.
I look at it differently, 2/3 are for us.
You know what I'm saying? It's just, you
I understand.
have to
Yes,
make a
sir.
decision and you have to go with it, I
Right.
understand that.
Coach.
Mr. Manning, Mr. Chairman, you said you would go with e-learning, but e-learning is.
It's,
It's an option.
that would be it. I mean, it's either or.
Yeah.
Yeah, virtual
But
e-learning.
it's only for pre-K through third, right? Up on the.
I think he means the virtual.
I meant-
The
I said-
digital.
yeah.
And
For me-
The 2A or even the virtual, right?
Yeah.
Okay, two plans. All right. Well,
And those are the points. Any other questions? Okay.
I will say this, getting back to what Ms. Bright shared with us a few minutes ago, there are the little helmet things with the face shields that they're selling like crazy too. Saw them not too long ago at the store for like $9. I don't know how many first graders, second graders, third graders we have, but, you know, if you got 500 of them, it's not $4,500, so, I mean, so, you know, I don't know which one's the best route to go, but kids at their chairs are going to be sitting, but once they get them moved around, they're still can share that banana or when they move from year to year, so it may be an option to go with the face shield for our primary kids. Just throwing that out.
I'll bring it.
Just throwing that out.
I'm ready. Thanks.
That's good, that's good, that's good. Anything else from anyone else?
I just want to reiterate to, Dr. McCoy and his staff, our consumers are the parents, our customers, and they have got to understand as much as they can. You know, we are saying virtual digital, you got people out there who have no idea what that means. Whose fault is that? I don't know, but nevertheless, they need to understand as much as they can. That's going to be some words, and I'm hoping, and some of them are not gonna call the school, but we don't want something to come up later and they say, I didn't know. I was not aware. So those are things, because these are the people that we're going to have to deal with these children. These are these parents' children, so I've said it earlier, I just want to reiterate that, man, and I think, I can't say it enough, because they are the ones that we didn't have parents, we wouldn't have a job, we wouldn't be the board. They have got to understand what we're up against, and how we're gonna keep their children as safe as possible, and educate them if we can. If they have to graduate 19, 20, 21, as long as they're here, they have a chance. Safety first.
You were gonna speak on something about the lack of the internet, something about,
Oh, partnerships with,
Thank you.
Sand Hills.
thank you.
Sand Hills, has offered, and I'll place this online, they've offered some mobility spots. And so this will be online. Is that set up yet? Sand? Yeah. That's it. So Sand Hills has offered some, I don't think the whole thing is showing. Oh, yes, it is. So if you look at, the right side of the screen, you'll see the different areas where internet access is available. Of course, each of our schools, we have access that's available. If you're close to, on, or near the property, you can log on with student, username and password, and then Sand Hills has added 3, free hotspots around the county, and we're looking to do more in conjunction with Ron Monoman. So, we're increasing the digital profile of Marlboro County, and making it easier for parents to have students get onto the internet.
I noticed that the lower end, which I represent, we don't have anything on that end.
Working on it.
Now, is that where possibility of hotspots may be implemented, or do you know yet?
Working on it.
Working.
Right, there's some areas that can't be serviced. I mean, like you mentioned Blenheim area, if you go, I guess that's called 38.
Yes.
There's a stretch of 38 that, I mean, I have 2 cell phones with 2 different carriers, and they both pop off at the same time. It's about a 4-mile stretch.
I'm sorry. Now, let me say this. Let me say this. I know that I don't see anything up there, but I know that area between number 9 and 38 going toward Wallace, there's no service there,
And again, some areas are not one, this is just something I wanted to show to, again, assure you that we're working as best we can, as fast as we can, to be able to provide access. We also have 8 buses that we'll be able to equip with Wi-Fi hotspots that's not included on there, because we want to make sure that we're placing them in areas that we know they're needed, as opposed to just placing them somewhere.
And keep in mind, and this is to everybody, public and everybody, if you have a facility, church or whatever, that does have Wi-Fi capabilities, and you're willing to partner with us, again, this is where the partnerships come in, and you're willing to partner with us where we can get kids to go to your church or to whatever you have center, that helps us as well, because in those areas in Blenheim where you can't get to, and I won't name a church I started to, but maybe if that church, that center would open up to kids that they could go there, and you could get 50 to 100 kids in some of these places using. But my point is, if we would get the community to partner with the school district in providing a venue for some kids, it would be helpful. And especially in the areas where we know that there's no services. And that's how we begin good conversations with communities getting involved. Because you never know, we may be able to get, no, this is mine, to get some parents to show up to help out, at least be there. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else from anyone else? If not, Ms. Coachman?
Make a motion or you want me to vote?
Yeah, we need to make a motion, I'm sorry. If you would, yeah.
On adjourning or voting for the, what y'all wanna do? I do it now.
To accept the plan.
Oh, to accept which plan?
It's-
Somebody gotta make a motion on the plan, right?
Yeah, somebody has to make a motion.
We have 2 plans here in front of us, right?
As given this to us, no, it's one plan.
No, it's just one plan.
It's just one plan. This entire thing is one
I
plan.
would put one on, to accept the Marlboro County Recreation School Management.
Yeah, that's both of them. The both is one.
Okay. I make a motion that we accept the plan that is introduced to us tonight, the virtual academy plan, Plan 2A, with it that Dr. McCoy has recommended for the board.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the reentry plan given to us by the school district. All in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Opposes? It has been accepted. We got one opposed?
Please.
I apologize, there's one opposed. Mr. Driggers. 2, and whom else? It was just one?
I think I'm the only one.
Just one? No, just one. Okay, is there any other business before we proceed to close? If not, if I can get someone to make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. All in favor, let it be known by saying, raising your right hand. Opposes? We are adjourned. Coach,